What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of Immersive Talks.
Yeah, the episode 5. That's a lot.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
starting to
milestone.
it's starting to get like a proper thing.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So,
The thing is nice. We keep
so
talking.
for those of you who don't know, my name's Jen.
And I'm Marco, and we are part of a collective or organization called Immersive Arts. We usually work with interactive installations and new media technologies. And in this podcast, we like to talk about the things that we usually think about the usage of new media and how it can be applied to art. So it's a little bit of some technology, buzzwords and connected to our knowledge of art and how it can go.
Yeah, and we like to push the thought process of where these technologies might go. So today, we're very interested in street art. We come across a lot of people who are working in the street art scene here in Berlin, and we want to explore this idea of what street art on the internet might be.
Yeah, that's true. We always try this game of like what it would be, um, a certain art form in a virtual sense. Like what would it look like? What it we what what it's what would we can do as artists in
Mm-hmm.
that realm. And yeah, we tried the idea of thinking about what would be the virtual form of street art.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays, street art, what is it?
So street art is, I guess I consider it as any art that would be on the streets. So um, graffiti maybe would not be considered street art, but some people do. I mean, there's the graffiti that you see, like people's names that are nice and colorful and maybe a little thought out. And then you also have your teenagers who are just like vandalizing stuff. Do you see a distinguishment between like regular graffiti and street art?
Well, in terms of art, there's always need to be some artistic intent
Yeah,
behind it,
true.
right? It could have forms of social statement, like for example, you write a certain slogan, or it could have artistic statements, depending on the culture of the city and stuff like that. The beautiful thing about street art is definitely that because it's such a democratic and popular ground where to put your art, um, not only the artists themselves can decide what is actually good and has to be left there for everyone to look at, and what can be like redrawn on, let's
Yeah.
say. But also the audience, the viewers can actually decide what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people do decide to take away some certain paintings or stuff like that that would be done on the walls of a street.
Yeah, that's the awesome thing about it is that anyone walking down the street, any average Joe Schmo can participate in this artwork, whatever you consider as participation. Some people might consider pissing on it
Hmm.
participating, but hey, I can also have my say.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about intent because one of my favorite stories is like I think it was Basquiat and how he started with like actually a lot of big artists started in the streets.
Hmm.
But I remember he was writing like these poetic slogans.
Hmm.
Like some people considered it graffiti, obviously, because as soon as you see writing, you think of graffiti. But like he was just making these nice little poems that made you think twice um, uh, about your daily commute to work, and it was
Hmm.
super fun. Before he got like super big. So yeah, if you intend to do something artistic, whether it be like writing, whatever, then yeah, it's art.
And let's not forget that there are other forms, of course. You can do installations in the streets. You can
Mm.
do performance art in the street. And the only thing and that kind of falls all into street art, doesn't it? Because if you have, for example, a performance piece into a gallery, you're subjected to gallery rules, which, for example, means that whoever person that comes to you to see your performance will be a certain type of person, or like knows that, for example, you need to respect the art or whatever. While in the streets, you don't know who is participating to your performance.
Yeah.
You don't know how they will react to a certain thing. Would they understand it? Would they even care? Would they just go by? And that's kind of a beautiful thing that street art makes you have the possibility to encounter. It's completely different. If you have a piece from Marina Abramovic into a gallery, is a completely different experience that would be into the street, into an urban setting.
Yeah. I just was reminded of my first experience doing street art. And I must have been like 6. And you know how everyone wants to write on the walls. And I remember writing "I hate Daddy," and I carved it into the walls. And I had the same feeling that you're describing. It was like, well, if someone sees it, then great. If no one sees it, then it's for my own satisfaction. And I feel like a lot of street artists have this same concept. They mostly do it for themselves, but obviously they do it for the rest of the community who's going to be also experiencing it. But it's with that state of mind, I think it was where street art is coming from.
Yeah, with the same state of mind, we are trying to apply it to the virtual space. So the internet, the life that we live on social media and stuff like that, how the street art will look like in that sense.
Yeah.
With that breathing ground. If we consider, for example, the Facebook homepage, that looks very much like a street setting, doesn't it? There are sometimes a lot of people that you don't necessarily know, but and you see them on your home feed into Facebook. And that could be, with some, metaphor, of course, being kind of thought as the public space of the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, we want to think about places that have a lot of traffic, just like the streets do. So yeah, Reddit, Facebook, these kind of things could be considered the streets, high traffic locations. And then yeah, I guess it depends on if you want to make some art or you want to make some vandalism, and both options are interesting. One good thing about street art is that it can kind of make a political statement. There's a lot of artists who use the streets to make a political statement. And it's because it's in these high traffic locations is that you can't really ignore it, right? That's the point. They make it in these areas where you're on your way to something and you can't really avoid seeing it, just like a billboard. So if you're logging into one of these high traffic websites and maybe anonymous, or maybe some other virtual street artist wants to make some political statement. So this could maybe be in the form of like a pop-up ad or a landing page, something that interrupts your daily flow of traffic and announces this kind of PSA type thing. That's what I would consider like virtual vandalism, if you will.
Yeah. Super interesting. Super interesting thoughts. I actually wonder what it will look like, like in the specific.
Yeah.
Yes, you said you can put a link or like some kind of landing pages and stuff like that. But also sometimes I think about the beautiful thing about the internet and the content that we put on the internet is that it's very easily reproducible
and spreadable.
You can make a lot of copies and they can be spread on everywhere. It's just like if someone does a piece of artwork here on a wall in Berlin, is as if he did it in every city of the world,
Yeah.
is it? And kind of like memes maybe got this powerful
Yeah, I was gonna say the
association
same thing.
both with society,
Mm.
like with social things that happen, in the
Yeah.
real world, like some movies or some political things happening and stuff like that. And they do apply some sort of visual language to it, which is, I mean, what pretty much visual art is.
Yeah, memes are a great example because they're very spreadable. They are reacting to what is happening like in the now, and it freaking contagious. Like it goes everywhere on every high traffic site. Like it's more like I don't know. It reminds me of an advertisement almost that
Mm.
is so like in your face all the time, except they're enjoyable
Yeah,
and super relatable.
it is an incredible movement.
Hmm.
Is as probably
And anyone can make it, just
one
like
of the
street
biggest
art.
art forms. I don't want to
Yeah.
say that, so I don't know if I'm saying it lightly. I actually kind of believe that it could be one of the most used art form in the world
Yeah.
ever, probably.
True. Anyone can make one. They have the meme generators. Like you can easily just pop up your Photoshop and like do it, or as easily as take a screenshot of your Twitter
Hmm.
tweet.
And some are very artistic. Like, of course, they memes themselves have taken a certain aesthetics, and they taken a certain theme to talk to, as much as many other form of arts did. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, pop art, you have a certain aesthetics and certain themes, and same for many other arts. Memes did the same,
Yeah.
and there definitely some have definitely, in my opinion, very artistic forms. Not only in the irony, for example, that they put in certain um, social commentaries,
Mm-hmm.
or the irony in some visual stuff, like some photos or stuff like that.
Yeah.
They did took this irony idea, this irony path,
Yeah.
the memes, but I can see it definitely in the future being different.
You think memes are gonna change?
Yeah, they are totally evolving every single day, because just imagine when an artist does his their piece of artwork every day for years, how much it changes even a little bit. It's kind of like evolving itself. In the same way, memes are doing the same, but with millions of people doing it, kind of speaking the same language, but they're evolving it every day, and that's why, like, every day there are always new memes coming.
And I know the content will change for sure, but I think the basic layout of the meme is pretty like legit. You have your photo that's speaking to something, and then you have like a little bit of text on top. It's just right. It's the perfect amount of stuff that you need to get some sort of feeling across. But yeah, of course, the content is going to change over time, and
you,
et cetera, et cetera.
but you know how long it took to change the style of minimal art.
Yeah.
It probably didn't even change that much since the 60s or something, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of more examples of virtual street art that has already kind of tried to surface,
Mm-hmm.
other than memes, because you have these. I don't want to say intrusive, but sort of intrusive. Like I said, they interrupt your daily flow of things. Of course, we have to mention right now the best example would be advertisement.
Mm.
Like these things are so freaking good. They're everywhere. They're not necessarily asked for. They're just sitting there always on your page, just like graffiti or just like street art would be on your way to work or to school. They're always there, literally.
A lot of street art is actually started by, well, quote unquote, vandalizing or adding onto
Advertisements.
advertisement, because in general they have these beautiful like spots where everyone can see it, and
Mm-hmm.
they're basically a huge canvas that you can add to.
Yeah, if you want to do a good spot, just go on top of advertisement because they've already taken like the best real estate, which they've probably researched in their research and development department. Like, oh, this is the best place to post an ad because everyone will see it.
Yeah,
Literally just take that shit and draw right on top of it. That's
yeah,
what
if
Cause did.
yeah, that's true. Well, that's how cause started.
Another street artist that is pretty popular now. If anyone doesn't know, he's the artist who has these figures with X's in front of the eyes, is what he's most known for.
Mm.
His companions.
Yeah. So I guess that in that case, that would be an interesting development into the virtual street art,
Mm-hmm.
if we want to call it that. But virtual public space art.
How
I
would
don't
that
know.
work though? How would you vandalize advertisements online that are already happening?
I have no idea. I guess they will need some hacking, or in a way, I mean, in some ways, you can also pay for certain advertisement spots.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can actually sometimes follow even the before breaking the rules of the game. You need to know them, and and sometimes follow them. I can imagine some people that maybe will pay for certain Google ads, and they get shown, and it's nothing. It's not an advertisement. It's just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
a, an art piece from him,
I
from
think
that
you
person.
were the one who told me about this, or someone told us about this guy who's trying to get a job,
Mm,
and he bought, like he created some sort of ad that was advertising himself as a good employee. And you know how on Instagram and Facebook you can select the target audience,
mm,
and he made it specifically for his boss who was online.
mm,
So he paid for all these ads, and literally the hiring manager, every time he logged on to social media, he would see this advertisement for like to hire this guy, and that's all he saw. So he was literally like littering this guy's social media feed, like hire me, hire me, hire me, hire
mhm.
me, almost to the point of harassment, which is actually like I don't know if it's genius or stupid. But in the end, I think the guy got hired. So
Yeah,
there's that.
completely following the rules of the game.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
So
Um,
that's one way of like street art or um, vandalizing a page. You can select who sees it, just as if in real life you like choose which neighborhood that you do it.
mhm.
I think it was Shepard Fairey who went cross country in the U.S. and literally just like bombarded each of the cities that he went to with his giant obey the giant stickers.
Mm-hmm.
So like this, in the same way, you can choose like maybe 10 cities, just those 10 specific cities. Like it doesn't have to be the entire world, which is one of the biggest mistakes I think
Mm-hmm.
artists today are doing on the internet. They're not being as niche or selective. Choose 10 cities, put like I don't know $100 in advertisements for those 10 cities, and then just do what the guy who wanted to get hired did. Fuck
Yeah,
it. Just be
yeah.
like, put your art out there, put your message out there, and then, dude, you have a following those 10 cities. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting thing to think about is translating the real streets to the virtual streets.
Mm.
So,
In what way?
so the one way that we sometimes talk about is using QR codes, which are the easiest link, I think, to the internet from the real world.
Yeah.
Um, so you can do something online, some sort of art online, but then people in the physical streets can access that thing. So if you're putting a bunch of QR codes around, um, like one thing is to vandalize the QR codes that are already here. So sometimes they'll put them on billboards, sometimes they'll put them on like I don't know, in restaurants so you can give them ratings, et cetera, et cetera. But you can do some sort of vandalism by posting over these QR codes. So when someone goes to scan this
Mm-hmm.
code to go give a review for a restaurant. They'll actually go to your
To
piece of
somewhere
artwork.
else. Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes it could be maybe as easy as just adding a little square inside
yeah,
inside the QR code they don't even notice.
exactly. Could it
Yeah.
go vice versa? Could it go from the internet to the streets?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? How would that work?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
My first,
Definitely a virtual space has a life for its own, so it definitely can provide some certain content that can go to the street art and make the translation from a virtual street art to a real street art.
yeah, I'm thinking like, I don't know, communities. First thing that comes to mind is like the Women's March, for example, which was a huge thing that started as online. People were having this conversation, gathering. But imagine posting like a flyer or like some sort of image that a lot of people can gather around on the online community, but then like maybe it's telling them to meet somewhere just like the women's marches did. It gets people in real life organized.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be one thing. It's like, well, I don't know, buy this piece of artwork.
Yeah.
Or like an Easter egg hunt. Like, oh, we just planted this piece of art somewhere in the streets. Like, go find it. Scavenger hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah. Another way I think to see virtual street art is, for example, if you think about not necessarily like the homepage of Google and the homepage of Facebook as your let's say streets, but if you think about the entire internet as streets, you can actually think that because it's so easy now to buy domains for websites and stuff like that, you can actually make an entire website as an art piece, you know. um Not necessarily the type of website that we look every day that has like a scrolling bar, blah blah blah, but they're actually, well, not physical, but they're actually experience happening on the web. And in the same way, you can easily let's say put your website at the top of a Google search or this kind of stuff. It can happen with if you think as a complete website as your content as much as it is a painting on a wall, then you can find ways to show it to the front page of well, of the internet, which is maybe not Reddit. I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of like Google, like the first thing when you write in Google,
Yeah.
the first 10 thing, and one of them is your art piece and is your website art piece.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like a hyper SEO type deal.
yeah, I mean, virtual and technology has really made us change completely the type of medium that we use. Is this still art, and it can still have the forms that the traditional art has, but it's using the media of the
Yeah.
internet.
We have different tools now.
Yeah.
And people, like, I think we're starting to get into this time where, like you said, websites don't need to be websites anymore. I mean, who uses, like, you can see that people are experimenting. So if anyone doesn't know, there's a cool site called Awards with 3 W's, like www dot. But it's awards.com, and you can go on, you can see all these really, really interesting websites. Like, as people are getting more savvy with programming and coding, and more platforms like Wix and these things are happening, everyone can create an interesting website.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, I don't necessarily need to make a home page or like a navigation bar up top, just like everyone else. When it becomes accessible and democratized, I don't necessarily know how a website's supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make it how I want to look. And I've seen some really neat ones where it's almost like you're peeling away layers and layers as you go deeper into this website, and you're going around, and it's almost like a little maze or a scavenger hunt or something, because you're going deeper and deeper into this entity, into this art piece. So it would be interesting to see someone use a website not for a practical purpose, like not to sell something and not to get you to do anything, but just to be experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And to, like you said, make that into an art piece. And immersive is kind of getting into this, I would say, but also connecting it to the real world. Mm-hmm. So I think we tested it in one of our exhibitions. You guys can check it out, called Habitat. And we had one installation by Jesse Pino, which was type to play, and you could type, and then your typing was revisualized in a projection.
So there was some projection mapping involved, and all of this was happening to the web. So there were people actually like interacting to the installation. The installation would have a real life expression with projection mapping, but also
so we would want these interactions that are happening in real life to change something on the web. So we didn't do it completely how we just described it, but it would be kind of interesting to have people do stuff in real life and then also interact with this art piece that is this website that we created, Mm-hmm. So you're kind of interacting with it and changing it around. But I would like to see a website art piece just for the sake of art.
Yeah. As you said, in that website, there is www.awwwords.com, I think.
Yeah.
There are plenty of things like that. And it's so funny because, instead of using a brush now, you can use JavaScript. Instead of using a canvas, you're using a domain, a .com domain, and literally you're just brushing your ideas onto a website with.
Now you don't even need .com. There you can do .art. You can do
there's
.net.
Everything, depending on the domain that you want to buy. But that is your canvas,
Yeah.
As much as programming and coding and stuff like that is your tools.
Yeah. I have a challenge for you guys. Someone go make one of these art websites, do like something.art, and then send it to us and let us play around with it and experience your virtual art piece, your virtual street art. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. But that could be a nice movement. Just have all these art pieces online with the .art, the .art ending instead of a .com or a .org. Just go around and make these little things. Can even go as big as making an exhibition or museum. Yeah. Like, what does a museum look like with a bunch of these .art websites?
Yeah, what is a virtual museum using virtual art and virtual?
Well, yeah, but not in virtual art in the way that we think it, but just because what is a museum? It's just like something that houses a bunch of artworks, right? So what would a virtual museum look like that houses a bunch of websites? I guess it would have to be something like a Google.
Well, yeah. But also the thing that a museum has is some curatorial thing. Yeah. So it needs to be curated and stuff like that, which is also interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who does a curator of websites these days?
Well, we do. It can start with
Boom.
us. It can start with us. And we are so interested about this new media and how it can be used for art's sake. And a lot of people are doing it. Just need to see the power into it. And that's why we love to do this podcast. And that's why we love to do the stuff that we do with the immersive arts and all our group. Which, by the way, you're definitely gonna hear soon. We're definitely gonna do some podcasts all together. That's for sure.
Yeah, you guys can meet the squad.
At least individually, Well, thank you guys for listening. We finished our fifth episode.
Yep.
That's true.
Thank you, Marco.
Cool. Thank you, Jan. And I guess we'll hear you guys soon. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram on Immersive Arts, and go check our website where you can see a lot of virtual art and interactive installation at www.immersivearts.com. Bye, guys.
Bye. See ya.